Hi there, I'm Scott Lowe with ActualTech Media. Thank you for joining us for this Spotlight Series video. Today, I'm joined by Dan Moshkovich, who is the Vice President of Marketing for VirtaMove. Dan, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
So Dan, tell us at a high level, what does VirtaMove do?
VirtaMove is a solution primarily that allows companies to migrate applications from legacy environments into modern supported environments. In addition, one of our key values is helping companies rediscover the architecture of important application that they run on unsupported legacy servers. In the last few years, especially after COVID, IT has been kind of hit with waves of resignations and people moving around, and institutional knowledge of these applications have been lost. And we help companies find that knowledge using our technology to kind of give them a better understanding of what these applications are, where they run, what dependencies they use, and how they function in order to facilitate a successful migration process.
So Dan, one of the things you touched on there, I think we'll start there, is this idea of understanding how an application works. In the work I've done, I've run into no end to organizations to say things like, well, the guy who really knew this application doesn't work here anymore or moved to a different department, and we don't really have great documentation. Some IT departments do a great job of documentation, and some, well, maybe not so much. It sounds like VirtaMove's, and one of the purposes is to help organizations, especially with those mission critical applications, solve that problem. Is that true?
That's correct. We are prior to any kind of migration process. What we do is we run our vMonitor, vMaestro solutions on those legacy servers. Those solutions allow us to understand the dependencies and map the communications of these applications with other servers, with databases, and really understand how they're functioning, how they're able to perform what they need to perform, and to give them an understanding of the architecture of those applications. What we do then is we provide those enterprises with a report that give them a much more detailed view of these how these applications run, and then they can make a much more informed decision during the migration or for the migration. So a lot of times what we see is, as you said, we see companies that come to us and say, well, we have no idea how this application is running. We can't afford any kind of downtime during a migration. That's why we've been kind of scared to even deal with the process of migrating it. But now it's just, we have to move it for compliance purposes, security purposes, into a modern, secure environment. And we need to understand how it works. And that's a key solution that we're able to provide, is a map of this architecture and how the application is running under the hood.
I think one of the things you touched on there that's really important is security. And a lot of the organizations that I've talked to, they're afraid to even touch some of these applications that are built almost like a string of Christmas lights in their mind, where if you pull one bulb out incorrectly, the whole chain goes out. And so they're afraid to apply security patches because it may break something they don't know about, or they have a server, whether it's virtual or physical, that they just leave on because they don't know if there's anything using it. And the old idea of just turn it off and wait till somebody complains doesn't really fly in 2021. It sounds like you can help organizations, number one, get a handle on how things are actually running so they can actually address things from a security perspective so they understand what's there. And second, start to basically, I don't want to say right size, but minimize infrastructure that may not be necessary because nothing's really using it, but they don't know that.
That's right, and one of the key components of the report that the vMaestro and vMonitor solutions is able to provide is around security patches and which security patches are missing, where are the security gaps around this particular server, and it gives, like I said, a more complete picture of where or how this application is running, and what needs to be done in order to provision the right destination, whether it's in the cloud or in on-prem in a modern secure environment. We're able to kind of give that picture to the customer so that they understand what's happening. And a lot of times that's a very valuable service in and of itself, as you said, because these are mission critical applications. They cannot go down, and the customer is just too afraid to even approach them, and especially anything around migration and moving them into a whole new environment. It's just a nightmare-inducing thought for a lot of those IT folks, and we aim to kind of take a lot of that uncertainty from that migration process. So that's the key component, and we run these monitoring and discovery phases prior to any migration that we perform.
So let's talk about migration. I mean, obviously, having an understanding of an application and its architecture is really important before you do any kind of migration. But one of the ways that organizations have tried to get around having to do that is to just take the whole thing and dump it in the cloud through a lift and shift mechanism. What are your thoughts on this lift and shift process that you see a lot of organizations undertake today?
So I think it has its obviously its pros and cons. It's quick, it's cheap, but in the long run, I think it can be very cost ineffective or a cost deficit, and for a couple of reasons. One, a lot of times when you're lifting and shifting an entire server, you're lifting stuff that may not be necessary for running this application, and that's where the monitoring and discovery component comes in. We can really allow the company to decouple the application from the server and migrate just the application itself without everything else around it in that server. We use our proprietary containerization technology to conduct the migration into the new environment, whether it's an on-prem modern secure environment or a cloud instance. We only move the application itself, not the entire server where it's virtualized in the cloud. And part of the drawbacks of a lift and shift approach is that you're not really addressing the security problem. You're kind of kicking the can, so to speak, down the road. You're essentially moving an unsecure operating system into a more secure kind of container in the cloud. So at the end of the day, you're still running an unsecure operating system, and in order to run that application. So that's a problem in and of itself. But in addition, you can't really take advantage of cloud services, for example, that require a native kind of application install. So those are the primary drawbacks, and these are major issues for a lot of companies that we work with.
So if I were to kind of summarize that piece a little bit, I mean, you can help them improve security because you're going to bring it into a modern sort of, I don't want to say proprietary container, but your container environment to help organizations be able to run that legacy code in a more secure way. You're also going to help them from cost containment because you're not going to just drag everything, including all of the cruft along with it. You're going to bring just what's necessary, especially when you're moving from an on-prem environment where you've probably already paid for the infrastructure to something where it's a pay-as-you-go. That's important because it may have, to your point, the lift and shift may cost the least right now, but over the long term, it's going to cost a lot more, especially when you start paying for things you don't need. So it sounds like those are two huge benefits for organizations, in addition to understanding how the application actually works. So Absolutely. You're bringing a lot of benefit to the client. Can you move pretty much any kind of application? I mean, I'm thinking about, the kinds of applications people have trouble with have been running for a long time, which means they're probably, bloated Windows applications in a lot of cases, but they may have some modern web apps too. What works well with VirtaMove?
We can really move almost anything. We rarely run across any kind of application that we're unable to move. We've moved, legacy applications ranging from CRMs, ERPs, even custom-made solutions, billing software, other kinds of like HR software, really things that are mission critical for the organizations. We rarely run across something that we're unable to move in. So for us, we're really built a world-class solution that has a lot of data on various applications that we move. We've conducted thousands and thousands of migrations, and so every time we do a migration, our system kind of learns the ins and outs of applications, and if we run across the similar applications in the future, we're able to kind of use that experience and make a much easier transition and migration process.
Dan, thank you so much for telling us about what the incredible value that VirtaMove is helping organizations achieve with right-sizing applications, increasing security, lowering costs, and getting things in a place that they need to be. If people want to learn more, where can they go?
Well, they can visit our website for one. So our website, www.virtamove.com. We have a ton of information in our resource center and our blog. We continuously write about the industry and various other aspects of our solution and migrations and things like that. So that's basically it. Those are the main focal points. They can always get in touch with us at any time. We'd be happy to walk them through our solution and give them an idea of what benefit we can provide them.
Thank you again, Dan, and thank you as well to our audience for watching this Spotlight Series video.